welcome to your personalized deep dive. You seem really interested in the whole power of the mind thing, right? Like how to unlock your full potential and all that. You've given us a whole bunch of materials on personal development and success, so that's what we're going to break down today.
Yeah, it seems like you're looking for more than just theory. You want practical strategies you can actually
Yeah,
use.
exactly. And the core of our deep ducks is Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. Heard of him?
Oh, yeah, he's a legend in personal development. I mean, he's worked with everybody. Prisoners, school kids, CEOs, even world leaders. Plus, his foundation does that huge charity thing, the Basket Brigade. They feed millions of people.
That's amazing. No wonder people like Oprah and Bill Clinton have endorsed him. So what's Unlimited Power about?
Well, it's all about how everyone can change their lives dramatically if they understand like what drives their behavior. It gets into the nitty-gritty of belief systems, setting goals, and even things like NLP.
NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, right?
That's the one.
I've heard of it, but to be honest, it always sounded kind of like mind control to me.
No, it's not about controlling minds. It's more about understanding how our minds work so we can use that to get what we want. Like it gets into modeling successful people, figuring out their secrets and stuff.
So instead of just being amazed by someone's success, you'd break down what they do and how they think to see if you can use those same ideas yourself.
Exactly. Like Robbins talks about how he helped this one kid get better at basketball just by using NLP to improve his shooting.
Wait, seriously? He got better just by changing how he thought about it. How does that even work?
Where Robbins helped him figure out like what was going on in his mind when he missed, and then he helped him replace those thoughts with good ones.
Wow. Makes you think how many things in our lives are messed up by those kind of unconscious mental patterns.
Totally. And one of the big things Robbins talks about is something he calls state. He says it's super important for achieving anything.
State. What's that?
It's like your mental and emotional state, you know? It affects how you act and what you end up getting. He has this great analogy about a grumpy bellhop to explain it.
Oh, yeah, I know those guys. You can just feel the I hate my job vibes coming off them.
Exactly. But Robin says if you can change that bellhop state, you can change their behavior. Instead of matching their negativity, you try to, like, shift their focus, maybe by asking about their day or something.
So you're saying you could turn a grumpy bellhop into, like, Mr. Happy Sunshine just by changing their state. Does that actually work?
It's more about understanding that we all have the power to influence other people's emotions. It's not about being manipulative, it's just being aware of the energy you're bringing to the table.
I can see how that would be useful. And not just with bellhops.
Totally. And what's even cooler is realizing that you have a lot of control over your own state, too. If you can manage your emotions and be positive, it'll be so much easier to deal with challenges and get what you want.
So it's like having a control panel for your emotions. Sign me up.
Haha. Well, it's not quite that simple, but Robbins gives you a lot of techniques to try. And it all starts with understanding the power of your beliefs.
Oh, yeah. He's big on the idea that your beliefs shape your reality. He even has that belief system diagram in the book, right?
You got it. He shows how what you believe affects what you do, which then affects what you get in life. If you think you can't do something, you probably won't even try, right?
Yeah, I get it. You create your own self-fulfilling prophecy. Got any examples of that happening in real life?
Well, Robbins talks about this basketball team, the Wyoming Cowboys. They were stuck in a losing streak. They just couldn't win. Robbins helped their coach change the team's beliefs about what they were capable of.
So instead of focusing on losing, they started focusing on winning.
Exactly. The coach focused on their strengths and possibilities. He helped them believe they could win, and guess what? They went on to win the championship.
That's wild. The power of belief is real. But how do you change deeply ingrained beliefs, the ones that are really stuck?
That's where it gets interesting, and that's where NLP comes in.
All right, let's talk about NLP. I'm really curious about this whole thing.
Okay, so NLP is a way to understand and copy successful behavior. One of the main things it uses is modeling.
Modeling, like we talked about before, right?
Yep. It means carefully watching successful people to see what patterns and strategies they use to get where they are.
So you're not just copying their actions, you're trying to understand why they do those things.
You got it. And Robbins has lots of stories about how he used modeling to help people achieve incredible things. He even helped a guy get over his lifelong fear of water in just an hour.
You're kidding, right? He got over a phobia in an hour. So what exactly does NLP involve?
Well, it also gets into this thing called submodalities. These are like the small details of your experience, like how bright or big something looks in your mind or how loud your inner voice is.
So it's not just about what you think, but how you think about it.
You got it. And NLP says that if you can change these submodalities, you can change how you feel about things. Like, if you imagine something scary as a huge image in your mind, you can make yourself less scared by making that image smaller or farther away.
It's like we have this control panel for our experiences, but we don't even know it's there.
That's a great way to put it. And NLP gives you tools to use that control panel. It's all about the power of your mind.
So far, we've talked about state, beliefs, and this whole NLP thing. But what about our bodies? Like our physical health and well-being, where does that fit into all of this?
Robbins doesn't forget about that. In fact, he has a whole chapter in Unlimited Power about the 6 keys to healthy living.
All right, lay it on me. What are the 6 keys?
He talks about drinking enough water, avoiding bad food combinations, and eating more fresh, natural food.
So no more pizza at 3 a.m. if I want to reach my full potential.
Haha, well, a little cheat meal every now and then is okay. But Robbins says what you put in your body directly affects your energy, your thinking, and how you feel overall. He even says you don't need as much protein as everyone thinks.
Interesting. So it's all about fueling your body for peak performance, right? What else is in those 6 keys?
It's all about the importance of water, right?
Yeah.
And live foods, and even how to properly eat fruit. He also spends a lot of time talking about the protein myth.
Whoa, that's a lot to think about. I'm starting to see how it all connects. Your state, your beliefs, NLP, and now your physical health too. But how do we use all this information to set ourselves up for success?
That takes us to the heart of Robbins' philosophy, setting goals.
Yeah, setting goals is important, but it can be so overwhelming.
Robbins is all about being clear and specific. He even tells a story about how he designed his ideal day and environment, like a vision board, but for your whole life.
So it's about having a crystal clear picture of what you want and then taking steps to get there.
You got it. He says it's super important to have a plan, breaking down those big goals into smaller steps. And he also talks a lot about your values.
Values, how do those relate to goals?
Robbins believes that your values are like a compass. They guide your actions and help you figure out what really matters. He even has this exercise where you figure out your top values by asking yourself, like, what's most important to me?
So it's all about aligning your goals with your values so you can live a life that's both fulfilling and purposeful, right?
Exactly. He wants you to live a life that's true to yourself. And that starts with figuring out what you value the most.
This is all so insightful. It's like we're building a blueprint for a better life. But let's be real, life isn't always easy. What about all those obstacles and setbacks you run into along the way?
Robbins doesn't ignore those challenges. He talks a lot about frustration and rejection and says they're not actually failures, they're chances to grow and learn.
So it's all about how you look at those challenges, seeing them as stepping stones, not roadblocks.
Exactly. He tells a story about an athlete who kept choking under pressure, missing important shots.
Oh, I remember that one. The guy was so afraid of missing that he was actually making himself miss. So how did Robbins help him fix that?
He helped him change how he thought about failure. Instead of seeing it as a bad thing, he saw those missed shots as feedback. And that helped him get over his mental block and play better.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Our mindset really does make a huge difference.
And Robbins gives you lots of techniques for dealing with those negative experiences and becoming more resilient. He even talks about anchoring positive emotions to overcome fear and rejection.
Anchoring? What's that? Like creating a trigger in your mind to access a good feeling.
Exactly. Imagine being able to instantly feel confident or calm, even when things are tough. That's the power of anchoring.
This is really blowing my mind. It's like we have so much more power over our experiences than we realize. But how do we take these principles and use them in the real world, like beyond just our own personal lives?
Now that's where it gets even more interesting. Robbins dives into the power of persuasion. He says it's everywhere in modern life.
Persuasion. I guess it is everywhere, from ads to politics to even just talking to your friends.
Exactly. And Robbins says that knowing how to persuade people can be a tool for good or for bad. He talks about how NLP techniques like mirroring and matching can help you communicate better and build rapport.
Mirroring and matching. What's that?
It means subtly copying someone's body language and tone of voice to make them feel more connected to you.
So you're not being a copycat, you're just trying to connect with them. Right?
Exactly. He tells this great story about using mirroring to connect with a really hostile executive who hated his ideas at first. By subtly mirroring the guy's posture and tone, Robbins was able to win him over.
Wow. It's amazing how these little things can have such a huge impact.
Right. And Robbins also talks about the power of framing, which is how you present information to change people's perceptions. Like, remember those Pepsi ads where they said Pepsi was the choice of a new generation?
Oh, yeah. That was smart marketing. They made it seem like Coke was for old people. And then there was that new Coke thing where Coke tried to change their recipe, but it totally backfired. So framing can be powerful, but it doesn't always work.
You got it. It's all about figuring out how to present information so it resonates with people and makes them see things your way.
So we've gone from understanding our own minds to understanding how to influence other people's minds. This is like next level personal power.
And Robbins doesn't stop there. He says we can use these ideas of persuasion and influence to make the world a better place, like creating positive trends in society.
Wow, that's a big idea. So it's like taking everything we've learned about personal development and using it on a global scale.
Exactly. He tells this fascinating story about Sarah Josepha Hale, this writer who worked for decades to make Thanksgiving a national holiday.
Thanksgiving wasn't always a national holiday.
Nope. She realized that having a shared tradition could really bring people together, so she campaigned for it nonstop. She used her writing to change people's minds and even lobbied President Lincoln directly. It's a crazy story about how much one person can change things.
So if one person can create a national holiday, imagine what we could all do if we put our minds to it. We could really make a difference.
That's the idea. Robbins basically talks about two ways to create positive trends. One is to empower individuals with NLP and stuff so they can improve their own lives and then spread those positive vibes to their community. It's like starting with yourself and becoming a change agent.
I like that. Personal transformation leading to societal transformation. What about the second way?
The second one is about using persuasion to bridge the gaps between people who disagree and find solutions that work for everyone. He uses the example of Amory Lovins, this physicist who advocated for energy efficiency and renewable energy.
So it's about finding common ground and working together to make things better for everyone.
Yeah, you got it. Lovins didn't just complain about old energy sources. He offered real alternative that made sense for both the environment and the economy. He knew that you need to consider everyone's needs and values to really persuade them.
That's a message of hope. We don't have to just sit back and watch the world burn. We can do something about it. But how? Where do we even begin?
That's the big question, and that's what we're going to dive into next. It really starts with, realizing that we have more control than we think. We got to take responsibility for what we put out there, the stories we tell and all that. Are we adding to the negativity, or are we trying to lift people up?
That's deep. Makes you think about the impact of everything you say and do. So how do we actually use all this to make a difference? Robbins talks a lot about controlling your state. Are there any, concrete ways to do that?
One of the first things he talks about is your physiology, that mind-body connection. He says that if you change your posture, how you breathe, how you move, you can actually change how you feel.
So if I'm feeling lazy and I want to reach for another coffee, I should stand up straight, take some deep breaths, maybe put on some music.
Yeah, exactly. It might seem simple, but how you hold your body really does affect your mind. Another thing Robbins talks about is focus. What you pay attention to shapes your whole experience. If you're always thinking negative thoughts, you're going to feel anxious and stressed.
But if you can focus on something good, something you're grateful for, something you're excited about, your whole outlook can change.
Exactly. And Robbins gives you different techniques for doing that, like visualization and affirmations and stuff.
Oh yeah, reframing. I've been trying to do more of that. Instead of getting caught up in the negative stuff, I try to look for the lessons or see if there's an opportunity hidden in there.
That's perfect. It's about changing how you see things and choosing to focus on the positive.
He also talks about the power of language, right? How the words you use can actually affect your emotions.
Totally. Your language reflects your inner state. If you're always using negative self-talk, you're just reinforcing those negative patterns. But if you consciously choose more empowering words, you can change how you feel and how you act.
So instead of saying, I'm so stressed out, I should say something like, this is a challenge, but I'm going to figure it out.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference.
It's like having a whole toolkit for dealing with life, But what about when you're facing a really big challenge? How do you stay motivated and keep going when things get tough?
Robbins talks about finding your why. Like, what's the real reason you're doing something? When you have a strong reason, it keeps you motivated and helps you push through those tough times.
So if I'm trying to exercise more, it's not enough to just say, I want to lose weight. I need a deeper reason, like being able to play with my kids without getting tired.
Right. When your why is strong enough, it helps you defeat those doubts and temptations. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way. Acknowledging your progress keeps you motivated and reminds you that you can do it.
Yeah, celebrating the small wins, I got to work on that. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture and forget how far you've come.
It's all part of the process. It helps you build momentum and stay on track.
Okay, let's talk about something that can be really hard. Overcoming limiting beliefs. Robbins says that our beliefs shape our reality. But how do we even figure out what those beliefs are, the ones that might be holding us back?
You got to start by paying attention to that voice in your head, your self-talk. What words do you use to describe yourself? Are they empowering or are they putting you down?
So like if I'm always thinking I'm not creative or I'm bad at public speaking, I'm actually making those things true.
That's the idea. And once you recognize those negative thoughts, you can start to question them. Robbins says you should ask yourself, is this really true? What proof do I have? What would it be possible if I didn't believe this anymore?
So it's about challenging those assumptions and being open to new possibilities.
Exactly. And then you can start to replace those limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Robbins has this saying, everything happens for a reason and serves us in some way.
So instead of seeing a setback as a failure, I can see it as a chance to learn or grow from it.
You got it. It's about finding the good in every situation, even the tough ones.
This is amazing stuff. It's like we have the power to change our own minds. But it can be hard to stay positive, especially with all the negativity in the world.
Robbins talks about that too. He says it's important to be mindful of what you let into your mind. The books you read, the shows you watch, the people you hang out with, it all matters.
So it's like creating a healthy mental diet.
Right.
Choosing things that nourish your mind instead of bringing you down.
Exactly. Just like with food, you got to be picky about the information you consume.
Makes sense. Like making a playlist of songs that make you feel motivated and powerful. But what about stuff you can't control, like bad news or difficult people?
Robbins is big on setting boundaries, deciding what you're going to let into your life and what you're going to keep out.
So it's okay to say no to things that drain your energy, even if it's from people you care about.
Totally. It's about taking care of yourself. And when it comes to stuff like the news, you can choose how you engage with it.
So instead of getting sucked into all the negativity, you can limit how much you watch or focus on finding solutions and things you can actually do to help.
You got it. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Which brings us to another important point, taking action. It's one thing to read about all this stuff, but it's another thing to actually do it.
Robbins is all about action. He says knowledge without action is useless.
So it's not enough to just read unlimited power and expect your life to change magically. You got to get out there and do the work.
Exactly. It's about consistently taking steps toward your goals, even when it's scary or uncomfortable.
Speaking of scary, stepping outside your comfort zone can be terrifying. How do you overcome that fear and take those leaps?
Robbins believes that real growth happens outside your comfort zone. He says, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Wow, that's powerful. It's a reminder that you got to keep moving forward if you want to live a good life.
Right. And Robbins gives you ways to overcome that fear and take action, like visualization and goal setting. He even talks about creating a massive action plan where you break those big, scary goals into smaller steps.
So it's about having a vision, a roadmap, and then taking those steps, even little ones, to get closer to your goal.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate those wins along the way. It keeps you motivated and helps you believe in yourself.
It's about giving yourself credit for the work you're doing, no matter how small. This is starting to feel like a recipe for being unstoppable, you know?
And Robbins believes that's how we can make the world a better place. He wants everyone to have the tools and strategies they need to live fulfilling lives and make a positive impact.
It's a beautiful vision. It feels like a call to action. Don't just learn this stuff, use it. Share it with others.
Exactly. We can all be a part of that positive change. Robbins says the only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. We have the power to create the future we want.
Okay, let's talk about one of the most interesting parts of Robbins' work, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP. What exactly is it, and how can it help us achieve our goals?
NLP is all about how our language, thoughts, and behaviors are connected. It says that our thoughts and beliefs show up in our language, and that if we consciously change our language, we can change how we think, feel, and act.
So if I'm always talking negatively to myself, I'm basically programming my brain for failure.
Yep, that's the idea. NLP says we can reprogram ourselves for success by choosing to use more empowering language. It also emphasizes understanding different communication styles, both yours and other people's.
So like if I know I'm a visual learner, I'm probably going to understand something better if I see it written down or in a diagram instead of just listening to someone explain it.
Exactly. NLP helps you figure out how you process information and how to communicate effectively with others. It can help you in all your relationships.
Robbins also talks about anchoring. You mentioned it before. Can you explain a little more about what it is and how it can be helpful?
Sure. Anchoring is when you connect a specific trigger, like a touch or a sound, to a certain emotional state.
So if I want to feel more confident before a presentation, I could create an anchor by associating a specific touch, like squeezing my thumb and forefinger together, with a memory of a time when I felt super confident.
Exactly. By repeatedly pairing that touch with the feeling of confidence, you're basically creating a shortcut in your brain. Then you can use that anchor to access that confident feeling whenever you need it.
That's so cool, like having a secret weapon for controlling your emotions. How do I know what kind of anchors will work best for me?
It's all about experimenting. Try different things and see what feels most powerful to you. And make sure it's something you can easily do anywhere, not something that depends on having a specific object or anything.
Makes sense. What about using anchoring to change negative feelings? Like, could I use it to get over a fear of public speaking?
Absolutely. You could try linking a picture of yourself giving an awesome speech to a feeling of calmness and relaxation. If you do that enough times, it can actually start to override the fear.
It's amazing how much control we have over our minds and feelings once we understand how they work. But what about when you feel stuck, like you're not making any progress toward your goals?
Robbins says those moments aren't failures, they're just signs that it's time to reassess and maybe change direction. He suggests asking yourself, what's working? What's not working? What can I do differently?
It's about stepping back, taking a look at where you're at, and being willing to adjust your approach.
Exactly. It's all about constantly learning and getting better.
This is all so helpful. But sometimes it feels overwhelming to try to do it all on your own.
You don't have to. Robbins says it's super important to get support from other people. You don't have to go through this alone. There are books and podcasts and coaches and mentors and communities that can help.
So it's about surrounding yourself with people who inspire you and support you.
Yeah, you got it. Robbins also encourages us to give back to others. He says that contributing to something bigger than yourself is crucial for real happiness.
It's about making a difference in the world and leaving a legacy that lasts.
He says the secret to living is giving. True happiness comes from serving others.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about. I feel like a whole new world is opening up. But with all this talk about personal power, it's important to remember that it's not about manipulating people or being selfish.
Absolutely. Robbins is really clear about the importance of ethics. He wants you to ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? Does it help others, not just me?
It's about finding that balance between growing as a person and making the world a better place.
Exactly. That's what makes Robbins' message so powerful. It's not just about you succeeding, it's about using your success to help others.
Okay, let's talk about one of the most interesting parts of Robbins' work, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP. What is it, and how can it help us reach our goals?
NLP is all about the connection between our words, thoughts, and actions. It's based on the idea that our thoughts and beliefs come out in the way we talk, and that if we consciously change how we talk, we can change how we think, feel, and act.
So like if I'm always putting myself down, I'm basically programming my brain for failure.
You got it. NLP says that we can reprogram ourselves for success by choosing to use more positive and empowering language. It's also about understanding different communication styles, your own and other people's.
So like if I'm a visual learner, I'll understand something better if I see it written down or in a picture instead of just listening to someone explain it.
Exactly. NLP helps you understand how you process information and how to communicate effectively with others. It can really improve your relationships.
Robbins also talks about anchoring, which you mentioned earlier. Can you explain a little more about what that is and how it can be useful?
Anchoring is basically connecting a specific trigger, like a touch or a sound, to a particular emotional state.
So if I want to feel more confident before a presentation, I could create an anchor by associating a specific touch, like squeezing my thumb and forefinger together, with a memory of a time when I felt really confident.
Exactly. By doing that over and over, you create a link in your brain between that touch and the feeling of confidence. Then you can use that anchor to access that feeling whenever you need it.
That's pretty cool, like having a secret weapon to control your emotions. How do I know what anchors will work best for me?
It's all about trying things out and seeing what feels strongest. Choose something you can easily do anywhere, and that's not too obvious, you know?
Right, it shouldn't depend on having a certain object or anything. What about using anchoring to change negative emotions? Like, could I use it to overcome a fear of public speaking?
Totally. You could try connecting a mental picture of yourself giving a killer speech to a feeling of calmness and relaxation. The more you do that, the more it can override the fear.
It's wild how much power we have over our thoughts and feelings when we know how to work with them. But what about those times when we feel stuck? Like we're not making any progress toward our goals?
Robin says those times aren't failures, they're just signs that it's time to look at things differently and maybe change your approach. He suggests asking yourself, what's working? What's not working? What can I do differently?
So it's about stepping back, assessing where you're at, and being open to adjusting your strategy.
Exactly. It's all about constant learning and getting better.
This is all so helpful, but sometimes it feels like it's too much to do on your own, you know?
You don't have to. Robbins talks about how important it is to have a good support system. You don't have to go through this alone, you know? There are tons of resources out there. Books, podcasts, coaches, mentors, support
So
groups.
surround yourself with people who inspire you and support you.
Exactly. Robbins also talks a lot about giving back to others. He says that contributing to something bigger than yourself is one of the keys to true happiness.
It's about making a difference in the world, leaving something behind that matters.
He actually says, the secret to living is giving. True happiness comes from being of service to others.
This whole deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. It feels like there are so many new possibilities now. But with all this talk about personal power, we got to remember it's not about controlling people or just getting ahead, right?
You got it. Robbie's is big on ethics. He wants us to ask ourselves, is this the right thing to do? Will this help other people, not just me?
It's about balancing personal growth with making the world a better place.
Right. And that's what makes his message so powerful. It's not just about your own success, it's about using your success to help others.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much. What's one thing you hope listeners will take away from all this?
I hope they'll realize that they have way more power and potential than they think. Robbins gives you real tools and strategies that anyone can use to overcome challenges, achieve their goals, and live a happier life.
What's one question you'd like to leave them thinking about?
I'd say, how can you use your newfound knowledge and power to make a positive impact on the world? What special talents and gifts do you have that can be used to help others and create a brighter future?
That's a really great question to think about. It makes you realize that personal growth isn't just about yourself. It's about using what you learn to make good choices.
Right. It's not just about knowledge and skills. It's about using them in a way that matches your values and helps everyone.
And Robbins really seems to live by that. You know, his foundation does some amazing work.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring to see someone so successful who also gives back so much. I mean, his foundation has helped millions of people, feeding them, educating them, helping after disasters. It really shows that the secret to living is giving.
I love that quote. It reminds us that true happiness comes from helping others. And it kind of ties back to what we were talking about before, about finding your why. Having a purpose beyond yourself seems really important for a fulfilling life.
Robbins believes we all have the potential to make a difference, you know? We can be leaders and inspire change in our own way.
That's a powerful thought. It's not about chasing some definition of success. It's about using your unique talents to do something good.
Exactly. It's about finding your own path and contributing in a way that feels right for you.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on life and how to deal with challenges. But with all this talk about power and influence, we got to remember, it's not about using people or getting ahead at any cost, right?
Oh, absolutely. Robbins talks about ethics a lot. He wants you to always ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Does this benefit everyone, not just me?
It's about finding that sweet spot between growing as a person and helping others.
Exactly. That's what makes his message so powerful. It's not just about you being successful. It's about using your success to lift other people up and make the world a better place for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into unlimited power, what's the one thing you really hope people will take away from it?
I hope they'll remember that they have more power and potential than they think. Robbins gives you real, practical tools that anyone can use to overcome obstacles, achieve their goals, and just live a happier, more fulfilling life.
And what's one question you want to leave them pondering?
I'd say, how can you use what you've learned today to make a positive impact in your own way? What are your unique gifts and talents, and how can you use them to help others and create a brighter future?
That's a great question to end on. It reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference. Well, thanks so much for taking us on this journey through unlimited power. It's been awesome exploring these ideas with you.
It was my pleasure. I hope you found it valuable. Remember, you have everything you need to create an amazing life. Now go out there and make it happen.